next question. Red Hood asks, how do I maintain positive sub mentality? I am very much into degradation and humiliation, but I often find myself thinking lowly of my own self-worth. I don't want to burden any potential dom with this, as it may make them feel like they need to walk on eggshells. I would say I am not sensitive, but I was just wondering if there is a way for me to receive the degradation I crave without feeling the backlash of low self-esteem later. I'm curious to know, Red Hood, do you find any particular words or acts triggering or uncomfortable when you think back on them? That's your first step, okay? Because I want you to start setting some boundaries around this type of play. And I'm going to get a little bit more detailed into that point here in a moment. But you need to start looking at this like in the rearview mirror. Because right there in the scene, you are going to be flooded with so many wonderful chemicals and hormones, all these endorphins going, and you're going to be blissed out. And that trigger it kind of gets buried. So if you really want to know where's the line, how can I maintain a positive mentality as a submissive, even though I'm really into humiliation and degradation, the answer is boundaries. And the first thing that we do to determine what those boundaries should be is you need to take inventory of what makes you feel uncomfortable or triggered. And you're going to need to do this after the scene. After the scene. After you've crashed, after you have processed, you want to do this after. Okay? You want to think back on, okay, when I was being humiliated and degraded in that scene, was there anything that made me feel like, looking back on it, is there anything coming up for me? Anything making me feel uncomfortable or triggered in any way, shape, or form? That would be the first thing that I want you to start doing. Just because you have a kink or a fetish doesn't mean it needs to be a free-for-all. That's the part of sanity in SSC that's so important in BDSM. Just because you are super into humiliation and degradation, maybe it's not a sane thing for you to participate in right now because you have childhood trauma and all these triggers and wounds that are coming up for you that are making the kink experience negative. That if we were to process through those triggers and heal from those wounds, it would be then sane for us and healthy for us to participate in this activity. So it could be very much something like that, okay? You have the boundaries to set around what phrases can be used when you're being humiliated or degraded. What acts are acceptable to you in that realm of play. It's your responsibility as the submissive because you have consent. Consent being a completely mindful, willing, and uncoerced choice to say yes, and the ability to revoke that yes at any time without fear of repercussions. What is that? That is free will. Consent and free will are the same thing. You as a submissive have free will. You as a submissive have consent. Part of that means you, and it's your responsibility to set boundaries around the types of play you enjoy. Okay? You like to be told you're good. Well, you're a pup. Of course you do. So that's part of this. And so Red Hood, if that's one of your love languages, this is why it's triggering you so much. This is why you're feeling this pull, because you have this high level of connection and love that can take place when you get validated and when you get encouraged. But that's probably also why the opposite arouses you in a safe context, right? It's the other side of the coin in terms of the love language here. So I would say, Red Hood, ask for validation and encouragement, not just in your aftercare, because aftercare is essential all the time. A scene is not complete until aftercare is over. So aftercare always in every scene, but especially the more intense you get with your play, more CNC, humiliation, degradation, that needs to be a point of reconnection in your aftercare. I would like you to voice that very clearly to any dominant that you work with or play with, that my love language is words of affirmation. So if we go through a really intense, degrading scene, I'm going to need that much more validation, encouragement, and affirmation in our aftercare. Okay? Again, set those boundaries. Additionally, make that known and ask for that outside of play and outside of aftercare. Okay? So I would just say, again, where it seems to me like you hold such a high value in words and affirmation that when the opposite happens, even consensually and in a very beautiful, desired way, it creates this emotional gap for you where you kind of just feel like you're hanging in no man's land and you feel displaced and maybe disconnected. Okay, so we also might have some codependency issues going on. And if that's the case, you might reconsider only playing in that kind of way when you know that you're in a secure state, when you're not feeling codependent, when you're not feeling pulled to overgive, when you're actually feeling grounded and secure. Maybe that is the best way for you to navigate this right now. Okay, so all of these are suggestions that I think would be very, very, very beneficial to you. One, evaluate if this is a timing issue when you feel super codependent or super secure. That's something to consider. Ask for words of affirmation, not only in aftercare, but outside of play, etc. Set boundaries and limits around your degradation. Ask yourself after a scene if you find any particular words or acts triggering or uncomfortable. And then finally, Red Hood, this is more of a mental thing. This is going to be a powerful paradigm shift for you. You need to start viewing degradation as play and not as an identity statement. Okay? And I feel like the insecurity that you just spoke to about being so attuned to the opinions of others, that's kind of bringing it out of play and into an identity statement. And so if you can knock it down and go, no, this is an identity statement. This isn't about who I am. This is just how I like to play. And there's nothing wrong with how I like to play. So I can keep it in a play space. And I could go out of that play space going, man, that was fun. And I feel blissed out. But that's not really who I am. That's just how I like to play.